What we're going to do now is create a form on the Come With Me page or the contact page. So we want to go ahead and go inside of French Alps, not French Alps Fluid. In fact, we will not use French Alps Fluid anymore. It was just to create a Fluid website, just to learn how to do that. So from inside of French Alps, I'm going to go ahead and open my contact.html and my style.css that we will use later. Okay, so click on Come With Me and it takes you to the contact.html page, which has nothing yet except for what's common on all pages, the header, the navigation and the footer, and obviously the background. So what we want is inside of div ID content, which is this area right here, which is not populated yet. It is between the navigation and the footer. We want to insert a form there. Okay, so div ID content, hit space and indent, and open the form element and close it after you open it so that you don't forget to do so. Form method post. So method is an attribute and post is a value. It's a specific value that means something. It could be post or get, and we'll explain this a bit later. Action, thank you dot HTML. Action thank you.html means whenever the user will fill their form and click on the submit button, the browser will load the thank you.html page, which will thank the user for submitting the form. Hit enter and indent. So all our work now is going to go inside of the form element. Okay, so I'm going to start with the P element, open and close the P element. And before continuing, let's insert a break here. What we plan to do is have 5 input controls, 1 text area control, and 1 select control. All of those are going to reside inside of the form element, and I've organized them within the P element just because they contain text and the P element made sense to me. We could also use the div element. We could organize them any way we want. I'm just using P, and if you want you can do the same thing. So let's give the P a class gray, and let's start with our first control, label, open label and close label, and insert 2 breaks please. So these breaks will actually force the next thing that's coming to go on a new line. Okay, so label space for your name, class titles, and in capitals I want to say enter your name. On a new line, input, type text, so we want a text field, name, identity, ID, your name, value, enter your name here. Okay, let's explain this. Okay, so what we did again, inside of div ID content, we opened the form element. The form element is the form and it will contain the controls. Each control is residing in a P element whose class is gray. The reason why I gave this class is because later on in CSS, I'm going to place a gray background behind each control. So it's a visual reason. We started with the label element. We made sure that the value of 4 and the value of ID is the same, so that when we click on enter your name or the text field that type text will create, both of them highlight the text field. We're using class titles here because later on we want to style the titles. For example, make them Arial, bold, black. Okay? Name identity is something we'll explain later, and value is basically, let's refresh the page and you'll see what value is doing. So let's go ahead and click on come with me, and you start seeing our form. Okay? Enter your name was the phrase that was created. The browser gave us a text field because we used the input element with the type attribute and text between quotations. And the value is saying enter your name here. It basically is the phrase that goes inside of the text field. You can use it or you can get rid of it. I'm going to remove it. Okay? You can keep it if you like. Okay? So this is the first control that we used. Let's continue. Again, let's open the P element, close the P element. It has the same class because we want all of them to look alike. And we will style this later. Let's insert the break before we go on. Label, close label, and insert the double breaks. For description, class is titles because we want all the phrases to look alike, and we want the phrase to say, is there anything you'd like changed in our schedule? Basically, this is a form for the friends who will be coming with us to the French Alps that they're supposed to fill. And we're asking them if, basically we're asking them to enter their name, if they have any comments about the trip, if they want to change anything in the schedule, and so on and so forth. Enter text area. So text area is an element. And let's go ahead and give it the name attribute with the value advice. For this to make sense, I want to change the word like to advise. Is there anything you'd advise us to change in our schedule? Okay, so just so that it makes sense, I just changed it. And then name advice. Okay, name advice. ID should match whatever we have as value for the for attribute. So ID is description. Rows 5 and columns 40. Okay, so we're specifying how big we want this text area to be. So again, we opened the P element, we inserted a phrase, and we made sure there's a link between the phrase and the text area itself, and we specified how big we want the text area to be. So let's refresh. Excuse me. Okay, so this is our text area. If we click on the phrase, the text area is highlighted. If we click on the phrase of enter your name, the text field is highlighted. So that's what we want. Obviously nothing is styled yet, and we'll do that later on in CSS. So this was our second control, and let's go ahead and say something like, hello, I like this trip. Can I come? Okay, so basically it's a text field and you're allowed to type whatever you must. Okay, the third control, again, let's open the P element and close it and insert a break right next to it. Give it the same class, gray, and then indent and open a span now. Close the span before you forget and give the span the same class, titles, and the phrase here is saying I'll be doing the cooking. Let me know what your favorite meal is. Oops. So you can obviously guess that we're about to use the checkbox. Okay, so hit enter and let's use the input element. Type checkbox name attribute. Again, we'll see later what the name attribute does. Italian food. ID food 1. Okay, and since we want the word after the checkbox or next to it, label should come next. So label and close label. As you see, the input element is a self-closing element, that's why we don't close it, but the label is not, neither is the text area, that's why we close them. So label for food 1. So the ID and the 4 should have the same value. That's why I'm saying food 1. And then the value here is pasta. Okay? So let's copy these 2 lines, the input and the label, and paste them 2 more times in order to get 3 checkboxes. So the first one is for pasta. The second one, the name should change to Japanese food. ID should say food 2. 4 should say food 2. And the word here is sushi. The third one should say American food. The ID should be food 3. And the value here is burgers. Okay, let's save this and look at it. Refresh the page.